I thought we had made it out unscathed. And I know it sounds paranoid to say it, but it's hard not to think that that was my first mistake. I swear, that smidge of smug was like a beacon just pulling the germs back into the house. Both the baby and I had dodged the virus that had been pinging and ponging its way between the boys for nearly 2 weeks, playing the part of observers in the tennis match of doom. Whap, cough and runny nose, thump, high fever, whack, a bit of everything, plus stomach flu. Sure, I didn't feel 100%, and the baby's nose had been running. I was short-tempered, and she was fussy, but we weren't sick. That is, of course, until the night when my body began to ache in a way that I just couldn't deny. It was the same night her nose started to run in earnest, and her cough took on the all-too-familiar seal's bark that indicates croup. And I just knew that we were goners. I said the best prayer I could come up with at the time. Please, God, please, God, please, God, please, God, please, no! And I tucked her in early. But as I dragged my weary self up the stairs, desperate for sleep, she began to cry. I wish I could say that I heard her need, was infused with a superhuman level of compassion, strength, and joyfully rushed in to attend to her. But that's not how it happened. Instead, my own eyes started to tear up. I wanted to comfort her, sure, but I felt sorry for myself too. I was exhausted. I was sick. I was weary and worn down and spent and just so spent. And then I felt guilty too, because what kind of a mother worries about herself when her sick baby is crying? I shuffled into her room, scooped her up, and settled into the glider, mentally preparing myself for a long night. I shifted my little girl, suddenly longer than I remembered, from one shoulder to the other, searching for a comfortable position. Finally, I moved my butt all the way to the left, turned, and kicked my leg over the glider's arm. I cradled her the way I had when she was much smaller, holding her close to my chest, but letting her 2 long legs dangle in the space created by my awkward sideways sit. It was close, but not quite right. So I leaned back farther and farther and farther, finally hitting the perfect angle for her. At the moment that my back cried out, "No!" But she seemed so comfortable. I didn't dare move. Instead, I tilted my head forward, trying to compensate for that awkward backwards angle, but actually just managing to assume the most uncomfortable baby holding position ever. Her little body relaxed as I began to rock gently back and forth, but I couldn't find a peaceful place. Her breath, though slow, was labored. I knew her body was aching at least as much as my own. I could hold her, but I couldn't heal her. I hadn't even been able to keep her, or myself, or the boys from getting sick. And all that I could think as I rocked back and forth was, there is nothing I can do for her. There is nothing I can do for her. I had never felt so completely helpless and useless and powerless and ineffective in my life. It seemed the sum total of my years as a mother was captured in this moment. I could give her nothing, and I couldn't even do that joyfully. Back and forth we rocked, and my mind wandered back to the passage we studied at church the weekend before, the one so beautifully captured in the hymn we sang during communion. "There is no greater love, says the Lord, than to lay down your life for a friend." When I was younger, the passage conjured up an image straight out of an action movie. Me, bravely pushing my future child out of the way of a speeding car, jumping fearlessly in front of a bullet meant for my future husband. I could do that, I thought, though I readily admitted that that kind of self-sacrifice would be 80% instinct. With every passing year, as I married my husband and brought children into the world, I became more certain that I would lay down my life for my family, my conviction made easier by the growing belief that I would probably never have to. And then it hit me. That sacrifice was being asked of me right there, in that very moment. I wanted to be in bed, resting my own aching body, but I was here, comforting my baby. And it wasn't just now. It was in every nighttime feeding and every extra bedtime story, in every tantrum weathered and every chicken nugget served. Laying down my life wasn't about some big Hollywood action sequence. Instead, it was death by 1,000 cuts, but it was no less painful and no less transformative. And perhaps, most importantly, the small, ongoing nature of the sacrifice hadn't diminished its worth. There truly was no greater love I could offer my daughter than what I was giving in that moment, putting aside my needs for a time to address hers. It didn't matter that I couldn't heal her or that I couldn't care for her in perfect, joyful selflessness. It mattered that I was doing it in the best way that I could. I continued to rock back and forth, even though she slept now and I probably didn't need to. And as my mantra changed just slightly, there is nothing more I can do for her. There is nothing more I can do for her. The peace that had been so elusive in the past few weeks spread out to cover me too.